Hello, everyone. In this lecture, we're going to solve end of chapter problems of chapter 8. So we have a few problems here. Uh, we're just going to start with number 6. And number 6 is suppose you know that a company's stock currently sells for $78 per share, and the required return on the stock is 10.9%. You also know that the total return on the stock is evenly divided between a capital gains yield and a dividend yield. If it's the company's policy to always maintain a constant growth rate in its dividends, what is the current dividend per share? So we want to find the dividend per share, and we're given the stock price and we're given the required return on the stock. What's important also is that the return is divided between two evenly between the capital gains yield and dividend yield. And we learned from stock investments in stocks that the return that you're going to get from investing in stocks, it's two sources, like the bonds, if you recall. Part of the return is from dividends. You receive a dividend on a yearly basis, let's say. So that is a return on your investment. You buy a stock and you get dividends on it. And your second source of return is the change in the value of that stock. And what we're given here is that this return on your investment in the stock is going to be partly, one half of the return is from dividends and the other half is appreciation or change in the stock value. So the $78 is the price of the stock, and 10.9 is your total return, which is divided evenly between dividend yield and capital gains yield. Okay, let's start with that. So dividend yield, we know it's going to be half of the total return. We learned that. So half of the return is coming from dividends. So basically, we're going to receive 5.45 of our 10.9% return from dividends on an annual basis. The remaining half is going to be from capital gains yield. Well, in a constant growth model, we know that the capital gains yield is the same as the growth, the constant growth of the stock. Okay? Or the constant growth of dividends. So we know now from here that the G is the other part of income, right? So G is 5.45 and dividend yield is 5.45 to total 10.9%. So what is the, so the question is, in here, what is the current dividend per share? Okay, so we know the dividend yield is 5.45, total is 10.9, and 78 is the share price. So what is the dividend yield? What is current dividends? Okay, so we know dividend yield is equal to D1 over P0, or the price today. Well, we want dividend in year 0, and we know we can obtain dividend in year 1, and we know that the relation between dividends is the G, right? D0, D1, D2 are related by the growth, constant growth forever. So we can obtain D0 if we know D1. And D1 is right here because we know P0 is 78. So basically, D1 here, so next year's dividends, or D1, right, is equal to this number times P0, right, to get D1. So this number times the price of the stock. So I know it's 4.25 cents for $4.25 D1 next year. This year's dividend is going to be 1 year before, so D0 growing to D1, so D1 discounted back by G to be D0, right? So again, as we said, the relation between these is the G, right? Every next year's dividend grows by G. And we learned that since this is split between half to dividend yield, the other half to capital gains yield, i.e. the other half, if we want to write it here, G is actually also equal to 5.45%. And thus, the current dividends is nothing but next year's dividends divided by 1 plus G, and that will give me 4.03 as this year's dividend, current dividend. Moving to number 15. Let's see here, 15. So the Bearings Incorporation is a young startup company. No dividends will be paid on the stock over the next 9 years because the firm needs to plow back its earnings to fuel growth. The company will pay a dividend of $14 per share 10 years from now and will increase dividends by 3.9% thereafter. If the required return is 11.5%, what's the current share price? So basically saying this is not a normal firm, right? So it's not a mature firm in a stable industry. And this is it has an abnormal period of time of 9 years whereby it's not paying any dividends. The normal period comes after that when they actually start paying dividends and start growing constantly forever. So they become mature, start growing at a constant rate forever. That's when we can use that, growth model that we learned about. But during the first 9 years, it seems they're not paying dividends. It's an abnormal period of time for the firm and for the investors. So we have $14, the first dividend that is coming in year 10, I guess, right? So 9 years because the firm needs to plow back earnings, the company will pay in year 10. Okay, so 10 years, the company will pay the first dividends. Dividend growth is 3.9% and our return is 11.5. So basically from 0 to 9 and 10 being the first dividends, this period of time, no dividends whatsoever. It's an abnormal period of time, so we have to deal with it separately. From 9, 10, and on, it's a constant growth model, right? Because it's a normal company paying dividends regularly, and their dividends growing at 3.9%. So the stock price is D1 over R minus G. Well, we know that in year 10, we're going to receive, $14, which is D10, over R minus G will basically give me the price in 9, right? Price in period 9. Well, what is the price today? Well, if this is P9 and we want P0, so basically saying we're going to discount this back to the present. So we're going to find the present value of this, i.e., so here we get to the present value. Here, present value, given a rate of 11.5, given that we're P9, so P0 would be 9 years before, and if we put a negative sign here, we know that the future value is 184. So the price today is nothing but 69.16, which is the present value of this P9. During that period of 9 years, there's no payments whatsoever. That's why we don't have to account for anything other than the price as a lump sum. Number 17. Okay, number 17. So this company is expected to pay dividends the following dividends over the next 4 years: 15, 11, 9, and 2.95. So every year for 4 years, starting year 1, I guess. because it's the next 4 years. So starting 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then afterwards, the company pledges to maintain a 4% growth rate, and we're given a required return of 10.3%. What's the current share price? And again, all right, so we have dividend in year 1, 2, 3, and 4, 15, 11, 9, 2.95 respectively. The dividend growth is 4% and required return 10.3. So we have the given here. We're asked about the price today. Well, in order to get the price, we know that, again, this is an abnormal period of time. There's no conformity. Like, okay, so we don't have a constant growth model. So it is an abnormal period of time for us. It's 15, going down to 11, down to 9, down to 2.95. So it's decreasing dividends at a random rate as well. Now, after this period, after 4, so 4, 5, 6, etc., the growth of these dividends are going to be 4% a year. So this is where the period, so 5, 6, 7, everything is happening at a constant growth rate. So we can say at period 4 is the cutoff point. We can calculate P4 that is equivalent to all the dividends that come after that period, so D5 till infinity. We can calculate that and then use those cash flows to calculate the price today. So here, cash flow in period 1, okay, we can say, well, okay, so this is how much I'm going to receive in period 1. In period 2 as well. So we have period 2, period 3. Now, period 4, we're going to receive 2.95, but what else would we be receiving, or we'll have to account for as in period 4, which is the present value of all the remaining dividends, because that constant growth model that comes after year 4, actually we can substitute all the cash flows that come later by one number at P4. And that's why we can calculate P4 here and use it to add it here as cash flow 4 and then do the calculation of all these together. All right? So basically here we need to calculate the value of P4, which substitute all the dividends from year 5 till infinity. So we need D5. Well, D5, we're not given D5, we're given D4, and we know that D4 is going to grow by 4% every year, so D5 would be D4 growing at 4%. So here, D4, 1 plus the 4%, so that's D5, okay? D5 over R minus G, okay, would give me the price in period 4. Oops, what I did something wrong. Oh, here, typed 8 instead of R. Okay. So, price after year 4 is, well, price not after year 4, it's at year 4, actually. The book solution, you know, I think shouldn't be after. It's the price of the dividends that come after year 4, but the price is at year 4. Okay, so that's the proper label that we should use. Again, so 48.7 is the value. So these cash flows now are 15, 11, 9. It's 2.95 plus the equivalent of all the remaining cash flows, i.e. the price in period 3, or estimated price. So these are the cash flows that I expect to make on my investment in that stock. How much am I willing to pay for this? Again, if you remember the equation that we used before, instead of doing each and every one alone, I use NPV function. In other words, I get the present value of all these in one function instead of doing so many different ones. Or for you know, a present value of every cash flow. So instead I do NPV for all the cash flows altogether. So the rate is 10.3. The values, these are the cash flows from 1 to 4, and that would give me the price of the stock today. Number 20, all right. Here we have Antiques or Us is a mature manufacturing firm. The company just paid a dividend of 12.4, but management expects to reduce the payout by 4% per year indefinitely. If you require a return of 9.5% on the stock, what will you pay for a share today? Well, this what it means here. So this is a constant growth model from the beginning. So that's not like a non-constant growth, which is divided into two parts. It's only one part. Okay, one normal firm. However, this normal firm grows to infinity by a -4. In other words, it's kind of reducing the dividends forever. So it's kind of phasing out of existence, right? Gradually. So 4%, 4% less every year. So it could happen. So it's not growth, but it's like negative growth. So here, 12.4 is the dividend today. This dividend will decrease by 4% every year forever. Okay, required return is 9.5. What would be the price? Well, the price is actually, well, price today is D1 over, right? So just to put the equation, D1 over R minus G. Well, can I calculate the value of this? Well, yeah, even if it is negative growth, we can. So this is dividend today times 1 plus the growth. Oops, I'm sorry. 1 plus the growth. Well, the growth, be it negative, doesn't change the equation. The equation is still 1 plus G into D1, D0, divided by, oops, again, why is this happening? Divided by, okay, R minus G. So this is R minus G. Notice that minus G is plus G. So now we're dividing over 13.5 basically. And that would give me an 88.18 as the price of that stock. Okay, so we got D1 by taking D0, growing it by negative 4%, so it goes down, and then divide by 9.5 minus 4, so plus 4 over 13.5 would give me this value. Okay, so it could be negative growth.